Young Scooter's death was the final event in the madness that began from this 911 call.
Do you need police, fire, EMS?
Actually, both, if you could say both. There was literally a shooting.
And while it's now clear that the 911 caller was lying, there's still something really disturbing going on here. Video evidence from that night has been harder to find than UFO video evidence. But when fans took it on themselves to get footage, something disturbing happened. Where is the footage? The hip-hop world was shaken to its core when Atlanta rapper Young Scooter, Kenneth Edward Rashad Bailey, met his untimely demise on March 28, 2025, his 39th birthday. While the initial reports described a tragic accident following a police response, a troubling detail has emerged in the weeks since: the complete lack of any visual documentation of the incident that claimed his life. In today's surveillance-saturated society, where practically every significant moment is captured on video, be it through police body cameras, security systems, or civilian smartphones, this absence of footage stands out as remarkably suspicious. Not a single frame showing the critical moments when young Scooter allegedly suffered his fatal injury has been made public. The established sequence of events, according to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, indicates that law enforcement responded to an emergency call at Scooter's William Nye Drive SE residence in Atlanta. After officers knocked, someone briefly opened the door before quickly closing it again. This prompted two individuals to flee through the rear of the property. While one person eventually returned, Scooter allegedly continued his escape attempt, reportedly jumping over two backyard fences and sustaining what would prove to be a lethal injury to his femoral artery. Yet, despite the presence of multiple officers at the scene, all presumably equipped with body cameras as per standard police protocols, no footage documenting the sequence of events has been released for public scrutiny. This conspicuous void in visual evidence has only intensified questions surrounding what truly transpired during Scooter's final moments. The absence of video evidence becomes particularly problematic when examining the official explanation for his death. Authorities maintain that Scooter died from severe blood loss after damaging his femoral artery while attempting to scale residential fences. Without any visual confirmation of this account, the public is essentially being asked to accept this explanation on faith alone, a proposition many find increasingly difficult to swallow given the improbable nature of sustaining such a catastrophic injury from simply jumping neighborhood fences. OG Percy, speaking candidly on Real Tune Productions, voiced the skepticism shared by many.
How they gonna pull one on us when they say the man jumped the fence and the gun went off? I thought they probably gonna say some mess like that. And the JFF jam, fell down, the gun went off, shot him. You know, you know how they come up.
Yeah.
You know, it's always 24 hours for them to get their as far as the cover up, y'all.
This commentary reflects a widespread concern that the fence injury narrative might be fabricated to conceal a more disturbing reality. Without visual evidence to either confirm or refute these suspicions, public skepticism has only grown more intense. Adding fuel to these doubts was a bombshell social media post by Young Thug on April 1st, 2025. Autopsy came back, street got shot. This explosive statement from a prominent figure with extensive connections throughout Atlanta's hip-hop community implied that medical examination results contradicted the official story, suggesting Scooter had been shot rather than injured from jumping fences. Law enforcement quickly refuted these claims, but their denials have done little to quell public skepticism, especially given their continued withholding of visual evidence that could substantiate their version of events. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation, GBI, was brought in to review the case, ostensibly to ensure an impartial examination, though many view this as an attempt to control the narrative rather than a genuine commitment to discovering the truth. The pattern of missing visual evidence becomes particularly troubling when contrasted with the audio recording of the 911 call that triggered the police response, which has been made public. This call, later attributed to Demetria Spence, contained numerous fabrications about armed individuals, hostage situations, and endangered children, none of which were found to be true when officers arrived at the scene. The selective transparency, releasing audio evidence that aligns with the official narrative while withholding visual documentation that might contradict it, has only deepened suspicions about what authorities might be concealing. In the absence of official visual evidence, concerned citizens and fans have attempted to piece together what happened through other means. A Reddit thread with numerous comments documents these efforts, with users analyzing the limited available information and attempting to reconstruct the sequence of events. Meanwhile, as investigations continue, critical evidence remains conspicuously absent: the comprehensive autopsy report and any visual documentation of Scooter's final moments. Without these crucial elements, the truth about what happened to Kenneth Kenneth Edward Rashad Bailey on his 39th birthday remains obscured by questions and contradictions. The hip-hop community responded to news of Scooter's passing with both grief and skepticism. Playboy Cardi shared on X, "I grew up on this shit SMH rip," while Quavo posted, "I on understand," alongside footage of Scooter performing, accompanied by broken heart and prayer hands emojis. Waka Flocka Flame shared an emotional tribute on Instagram stories. "Street, you had me crying before my show, you the backbone, Dama Brada." As we examine the dubious 911 call that set these tragic events in motion, we'll delve deeper into the questionable circumstances surrounding the police response and the mounting evidence suggesting that Scooter's death may have been far from the accidental tragedy portrayed in official statements. The fabricated emergency call. The catalyst for the chain of events leading to young Scooter's death was an emergency call that has since been revealed as a complete fabrication. Released to public scrutiny in the days following his death, the audio recording exposes a web of alarming falsehoods, apparently designed to trigger an aggressive police response, a classic swatting scenario with devastating consequences. To comprehend the magnitude of this deception, we must examine the caller's specific claims about activities allegedly taking place at 273 William Nye Drive, SE, all of which would later be proven entirely fictional.
Do you need police, fire, EMS?
Actually, both, if you could say both. There was literally a shooting. The house, literally the neighbors next door, the house of the address that I just gave you, the 273, there is literally a whole domestic dispute going on.
From the outset, the caller establishes a scenario demanding urgent armed intervention by reporting active gunfire and domestic violence. Such claims would naturally put responding officers on high alert, preparing them to encounter a volatile and potentially deadly situation. The caller proceeded to escalate the allegations with each statement.
Basically, like I said, these guys they're like selling drugs in and out of the house. All you see is guys coming in and out of the house with guns and stuff. They holding guns in the air.
Here, the caller intensifies the perceived threat by alleging both drug trafficking and the presence of multiple armed individuals openly brandishing weapons. These claims would further heighten the perceived danger level for responding officers, potentially justifying more aggressive tactics. The fabrications became increasingly disturbing as the call continued.
And then it's like, I'm not sure if they're pimping, but it's like the situation that's going on right now. This girl doesn't have on any clothes. They threw her outside.
By introducing allegations of possible sex trafficking or exploitation, the caller further elevated the perceived need for immediate intervention. The description of a naked woman being forcefully expelled from the residence creates an impression of immediate danger to a vulnerable individual. As the conversation progressed, the caller continued to manufacture increasingly alarming scenarios.
Do you see or hear anything else?
Yeah, she's trying to get away and they're holding her. She's being held hostage.
The assertion that someone was being held hostage represents a significant escalation, suggesting an ongoing forcible confinement that would necessitate immediate police intervention to resolve. Perhaps most egregiously, the caller even claimed a child was in jeopardy.
Okay. Give me one moment.
There's also a child in danger as well because she has a baby.
This allegation of a minor at risk would typically be a top priority for responding officers, potentially justifying even more urgent and aggressive intervention tactics. What makes this call particularly troubling is that when police arrived at the scene, they discovered none of the described scenarios. There was no evidence of gunfire, no injured woman, no hostage situation, and no endangered child. This stark disconnect between the caller's elaborate claims and the actual reality at the scene immediately raised red flags about the authenticity and motivation behind the emergency call. In a significant development, Atlanta police arrested 31-year-old Demetria Spence on April 1st, 2025, charging her with transmitting a false public alarm. Authorities alleged that she was responsible for the fabricated 911 call that triggered the police response at young Scooter's residence. TMZ reported that Spence had allegedly admitted to making the call during an Instagram live session prior to her arrest. Following her arrest, Spence attempted to explain her actions in a video statement.
There's a reaction for every action. This is part A. You guys didn't have part A. You guys only have part B. In the narrative, it looks like I was trying to set this man up because you guys don't have part B. I'm giving you part B. I'm giving you what led up to the call. I was physically so I called to protect myself. That's the issue. That's part A. I never had any intentions to get anybody. I was the one that was getting, and I came here to say my truth. That's it. That's all. I don't want no clout.
This explanation has prompted more questions than answers. If Spence had genuinely been abused, why did her call include multiple detailed fabrications about hostages, armed men, and endangered children rather than simply reporting the actual abuse? Why would she claim to be a neighborhood watch member rather than identifying herself as a victim? And most crucially, why would she later admit to making the call on Instagram Live if her intentions were genuine? The timing of the incident on Scooter's 39th birthday has also raised eyebrows, with many noting that targeting him on this specific day suggested prior knowledge of his whereabouts and activities. This level of specificity has led some to question whether the false 911 call was part of a coordinated operation rather than a random act of harassment. Meanwhile, discussions about Scooter's alleged connections to drug distribution emerged. Rumors about his involvement with purple heroin circulated online after his death, as discussed in one YouTube conversation.
And even now though, bro, like she has this is this purple heroin, right?
What?
Yeah, bro. Again,
Like pink cocaine.
no, bro, like he has like, again, which is why like now, like, you know, and his shit is jumping in city because
So that's why he ran.
and he has like this purple heroin is like which was explained, but he found a way to make it purple, right?
Whether these rumors had any factual basis or not, they contributed to speculation about potential motives for targeting Scooter. The reference to drug activities in the 911 call seemed particularly directed, raising questions about whether the caller had specific knowledge of Scooter or was deliberately attempting to provoke a police response at his residence. For Scooter's family and friends, the knowledge that his death resulted from a fabricated emergency call only compounds the tragedy. His son, Kenneth Bailey Jr., has been particularly vocal about his grief and frustration, sharing emotional posts on Instagram that reflect both personal loss and anger at the circumstances that led to his father's death. The hip-hop community continues to mourn Scooter's passing while questioning the official narrative of his death. Artists like Playboy Carti, Quavo, and Waka Flocka Flame have shared tributes on social media, honoring his contributions to Atlanta's rap scene, while implicitly raising questions about what really happened during his final moments. The central mystery persists. What actually happened to young Scooter during those critical moments when he sustained his fatal injury? Was it truly an accident while jumping fences, as officials maintain, or does the truth lie elsewhere, perhaps in something authorities have been reluctant or unwilling to acknowledge? Medical impossibilities and unanswered questions. As the investigation into young Scooter's death progresses, the official medical explanation for his demise has emerged as perhaps the most contentious aspect of the case. According to 11alive.com, Scooter succumbed to massive blood loss resulting from a severed femoral artery, purportedly sustained while scaling fences during his attempt to evade police. While such an injury could theoretically prove fatal, the circumstances described have sparked widespread skepticism due to the extreme unlikelihood of sustaining such a catastrophic injury merely from jumping ordinary residential fences.
Y'all need to know one thing about the thigh bone. It has a lot of arteries in it, y'all. It can't kill you. The thigh bone can't kill you. It's a lot of arteries in the thigh bone. A lot of niggas get shot. We just lost a youngster in Fort Worth a year or two ago. He got shot over there on Ramey Street and he got hit in the leg. I said, oh, shit, hit in the leg. But to let y'all know that ain't nothing. I like to say R.I.P. to Roy Lee. Shot in the leg. The leg can't kill you.
OG Percy, during his candid discussion on Real Tune Productions, directly challenged the medical plausibility of this explanation. Although medical professionals would dispute OG Percy's assertion that the leg can't kill you, his fundamental skepticism about the official cause of death resonates with many. The femoral artery is protected by the femur, the strongest bone in the human body, making it exceptionally difficult to damage without extraordinary force or a penetrating wound. Another commentator expressed similar doubts about the likelihood of the injury as described.
Man, that sounds sus, bro. Because
You don't
think
believe
about this shit, right? So again, these are two fences in like backyards.
How high are the fences?
How high are fences in backyards to where you falling from that fence and not just like break your leg, but bro, you broke that so fucking hard on
You broke your femur.
it man, come on, bro.
This commentary raises a crucial question. How could jumping an ordinary residential fence generate sufficient force to fracture the femur, one of the body's strongest bones, and damage the femoral artery? Typical backyard fences stand only 6 feet tall, and while jumping them might result in minor injuries such as sprains, scrapes, or even simple fractures, catastrophic femoral injuries would be extraordinarily rare without additional contributing factors. The discussion continued with further expressions of disbelief.
You don't believe it?
To me, it don't make sense.
Yeah,
like
'cause you
at
gotta
all.
Jump. The femur is the strongest bone in your body. In order to break that, you know what type of pressure it takes? So he would have to have jumped from at least, I'm no
Come
fucking-
on, bro.
Like at least 10 feet, right? 6 feet. And land on a pole and land. I don't know, how much did he weigh at the time?
These commentators highlighted the physical improbability of breaking a femur, recognized as one of the strongest bones in the human body, merely by jumping a residential fence. This logical skepticism reflected a broader public disbelief in the official explanation, which appeared increasingly implausible as more details emerged. The controversy intensified when Young Thug posted on X on April 1st, 2025. Autopsy came back, Street got shot. This explosive claim from a prominent figure with connections to Scooter suggested that the official cause of death was being deliberately misrepresented, that Scooter had been shot, presumably by police, rather than suffering an accidental injury while jumping fences. Law enforcement officials swiftly denied these allegations, maintaining through Fox 5 Atlanta that no firearms were discharged during the incident and that Scooter's injuries resulted solely from jumping fences. However, the absence of released body camera footage or independent witnesses to corroborate this account has only intensified skepticism. Regardless of the exact mechanism of injury, Scooter's final conscious moments were undoubtedly filled with confusion, fear, and pain. Having fled from police responding to what would later be revealed as a fabricated emergency call, he found himself bleeding profusely, surrounded by officers, and likely realizing the gravity of his condition as his strength ebbed away. What thoughts might have raced through his mind during these final moments? Concern for his family, his son, the music he would never create. We can only imagine his mental state as he fought for each breath, his heart racing to compensate for the blood loss, his consciousness gradually fading as shock set in. By the time he reached Grady Memorial Hospital, Scooter was likely already in hypovolemic shock from the massive blood loss. Medical professionals would have initiated emergency protocols, administering intravenous fluids, blood transfusions, possibly surgery to repair the damaged artery, but the blood loss had apparently been too severe and prolonged. His final physical moments would have been spent unconscious in a trauma room, surrounded by medical staff fighting unsuccessfully to save his life. News of his death spread rapidly through social media, generating shock and grief throughout the hip-hop community. For Scooter's family, particularly his son Kenneth Bailey Jr., the official explanation provides neither closure nor comfort. His emotional posts on Instagram reflect not just grief at his father's passing, but anger at a system that seems determined to minimize and obscure the circumstances of his death. "My best friend gone," he wrote in one poignant post, highlighting the personal impact of this loss beyond the public speculation and controversy. OG Percy further questioned the official narrative.
Roy Lee sitting up in the hospital one day talking to a fine man and shot me in my leg, man. He had a face, he was trying to make the best of what he was going through.
This declaration reflects both recognition of the systemic obstacles to transparency and determination to overcome them, to continue pushing for the truth about what happened to young Scooter in his final moments, regardless of how many agencies may be involved in obscuring it. Currently, the official account maintains that Scooter died from injuries sustained while jumping fences to evade police, who were responding to what turned out to be a fabricated emergency call. But for many who knew him, followed his career, or have examined the circumstances of his death, this explanation fails to adequately address the fundamental questions about his final moments. As investigations continue and potentially more information emerges, the complete story of what happened to young Scooter on March 28, 2025 may eventually come to light. Until then, his memory endures through his music, his influence on the Atlanta rap scene, and the ongoing demands for justice and transparency from those who refuse to accept that his death was merely an unfortunate accident. Whatever the ultimate truth about how young Scooter's life ended, what remains indisputable is the impact he had during his 39 years, the music he created, the relationships he built, the son he raised, and the legacy he left behind. That legacy encompasses not just his artistic contributions, but also the questions raised by his death, questions that continue to demand answers even as time passes and new headlines emerge. For Kenneth Edward Rashad Bailey, young Scooter, those final moments on March 28, 2025 may have been filled with fear, confusion, and pain, but his story extends far beyond those moments, encompassing a life of creativity, resilience, and transformation that deserves to be remembered with respect and dignity, even as we continue to question the circumstances of his death and seek the truth about his final moments. And if you want to know the truth about what happened in the case of this video on your screen, hit it and let me give you the gist.